We are live. It's Empire State of Baseball, episode number 52, on this Monday, July the 10th, 2023, airing on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, and as always, powered by StreamYard. And it is the All-Star Special here on this Monday. And thank you guys all for coming out for tonight's show. And we're back. It's been a while. It's been over 2 weeks. A lot to cover with the Mets and Yankees side of the house, and we're gonna get into it in a little bit with the Empire Express. But Joe, let me ask you this question, because you're a sport.
Rich,
no, we lost Rich already.
Oh, I guess we can't ask Joe any questions.
Right away.
God,
I feel like he's going to ask something constructive. There he is.
Yes, I was going to ask something constructive. All right. Is the MLB All-Star Game the premier All-Star game in professional sports?
Yes, absolutely. We know the NFL's All-Star Game is not even real anymore. The NBA All-Star Game is a complete and utter joke when it shouldn't be, because the NBA All-Star Game actually has the potential to be the best, having all those stars, but nobody plays defense. And hockey, the defensemen don't hit, the goalies don't have max effort. MLB is the only All-Star Game where you can watch it and say, that looks like a regular, ordinary game of baseball. The pitchers are throwing 99 to 100. The players are looking to leg out doubles and triples and steal bases. It is the closest thing. Now, listen, I understand the lack of buzz around it. I understand that it is just an exhibition game, but at the same time, it does resemble the real thing with the biggest stars. And at the end of the day, that is the best part of why the MLB All-Star Game is the one that is the most, to me, the most relevant in sports, because you're seeing a product that reflects what the game of baseball is actually about.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with Joe there. It's definitely the most watchable. I mean, you watch some of these other games, like Joe said, there's no defense whatsoever in the NBA All-Star Game. You see those scores, and it's abstract. It's crazy how wild those scores are, because nobody plays defense. I couldn't tell you the last time I watched the Pro Bowl. I might have been in high school.
It doesn't exist anymore, so there's nothing to watch.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's been years. It doesn't even exist anymore. Really, the only thing in terms of all-star events that I think could have made a comparison, and even that's not the same as it used to be, would have been the dunk contest and the Homerun Derby. But again, the dunk contest was great years ago when you had a lot of stars playing it. And now you get all these random guys. Maybe you have one decent name in there, two decent names in there, but the Homerun Derby is definitely the best of the free-form competitions.
I do like. I mean, the Home Run Derby is the best of all-star competitions, but I do like the NBA skills competition and the NHL one. There's a lot of fun stuff with the speed, around this the fastest skater and the hardest shot and that kind of stuff. That I always enjoy that. Basketball does have a lot of fun stuff. 3-point contest is still cool. You do have big stars generally do that. They do that 3-person relay race now, which it's kind of fun to watch. So I do think that some of them, I wish Major League Baseball could have more of a full competition around, and not just the Home Run Derby. You're not going to have, hey, Garrett Cole, throw 105, let's see how your shoulder handles this. You can't do that. But I'd love to even just see a race around the bases. Who's the fastest guy in baseball? You get them start at home and just get them cutting the bases so we can figure out MLB's fastest man. I think that'd be kind of fun, and shouldn't lead to anyone getting hurt. You wouldn't think that a speedster is going to get hurt just doing a run around the bases. I guess it's possible. So I'd like to see baseball find more things to do.
Yeah, one other thing that would be cool too. You do a home run derby, but you do it with pitchers, just for shit. Get some giggles in there. Just why not get some hitters up there?
Wait, didn't the Nippon Professional Baseball League do a bunt derby at some point in the last 2 years?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I imagine I don't know if I think you guys all might have played MVP baseball 05.
Oh yeah,
where they used to have you have to hit it to this gap. I think that'd be kind of cool for the non-power. You get an arise up there, and it's almost a not tic-tac-toe, but all right, you got to hit it into the right field gap between these two things. I think that'd be kind of cool to show off some of the less powerful guys. But yeah, the big thing with baseball and the home run derby, and we really see it this year, is the stars will do it. Usually you'll get a star will do it at least once, right? Everyone, Mookie's doing it for the first time. Some guys love doing it, and they'll do it a few times. But I think it's great that the stars do it. And even go back to the NBA, the fact that LeBron never did a dunk contest, when I turn this into a dunk contest debate, is like, I feel like such like that's a shame. Like that really stinks that like someone like him never did it. And there's plenty of other guys that aren't LeBron who haven't done the dunk contest. And baseball, those big guys will do it, you know.
Well, that and the dunk contest is kind of arbitrary. I mean, it's based on opinion. It's not based on fact.
Well,
the home run derby. The home run derby, you hit the most home runs in a round, you're moving on. There's no second guessing it. It's a straight up fact. And that's why the 3-point contest is more entertaining than the dunk contest at this point. But like, you know, the home run derby is special because it's doing something that kids at home dream of doing, but know that 90% of them will never even attempt to do it. I mean, these guys are hitting balls into the upper deck. Like, the human being, a regular human being, can't even imagine that is possible. When you watch the 3-point contest, you're like, all right, I could shoot a 3-pointer. You know, maybe not 50 in a row, but I can do that. But the home run derby, I can't hit a ball into the upper deck in Seattle. In Seattle, I can't do that. It defies such logic to the average individual that I think that people get captivated by it, and that's why it's the best skills event in my mind.
And us 4 co-hosts here have the biggest competition of all, because we're going to try to squeeze the show in by 7:59 so we can send you all off to ESPN to watch the home run derby. And that show tonight includes the following. We got the Empire Express getting to the latest of the Mets and Yankees. Mets trending up 6-2 over the last 8 games. You like that? Yankees starting to trend down back again. So we're going to get into those conversations. Yankees got a new hitting coach. So we'll talk about the new hire in Sean Casey. Then guess the graph. We do a little switcheroo. We usually do games at the end of the show. We're going to do guess the graph in the middle of the show. Corey's got our ball for today. And of course, we're going to get into all the MLB All-Star festivities, from the draft to the Derby to tomorrow's Midsummer Classic, all that and more. And Matt's going to end things with the Chooch's pick of the week. And it does have all-star intentions. So we will get into that later on tonight. But we're going to kick these things off, as we've done over the last few weeks now, with the Empire Express. And we'll start off with the Mets side of things. Like I said, the Mets are, they lost the last 2 games, but things are kind of trending up. They played much better ball. They had the sweep of the Diamondbacks, which is a big sweep for them. Things are looking good. Players are starting to come back around, but I'm not going to speak on behalf of the Mets here. So, Corey, what do you think of your team, man?
I mean, it was a fun week. Don't get me wrong. I mean, like you said, a massive sweep against the Padres. Against the Diamondbacks. They lost to the Padres. They started the stretch winning 2 of 3 against the Giants, and they should have won the first game versus the Giants too. The bullpen ended up blowing that game, which was the whole story of June. But it was a very fun week, and I think it energized the fan base. It's just unfortunate that it ended on a sour note, because when you look at the grand scheme of things, the Mets need to play not near perfect, but they have to play at least 600% baseball down the stretch here to have any shot at that third wild card. And to lose the series to another struggling team in the Padres, who pretty much all of us had going far, myself and Tom had them in the World Series. So to lose that series against another struggling team is unfortunate. But let's see if they can keep it up in the second half. It's going to get interesting if they come out and win, let's say, 5 of their first 7 games. And then it's like, all right, what do you do with the deadline? If you find yourself 5-6 games out of that third wild card spot, are you buyers? Are you sellers? Me personally, I'm not buying. You are not buying any sort of rental player. Forget about that. I don't know why people are talking about trade for Ohtani. That would be the worst thing that this franchise could do right now. Nothing against Ohtani. It's just the situation with him in free agency and the Mets in the standings makes 0 sense. But we'll see what happens. I could see the team being what I would call light sellers, where maybe, all right, you trade off a piece. Maybe a Mark Canha has some value. I don't see them making any big blockbuster sells. I wouldn't be opposed to maybe trading off a Scherzer if you eat a lot of that contract. I don't think it happens, though. I could see them selling off maybe a Tommy Pham, maybe a Canha, maybe even a Robertson or Ottavino, and just get some lower-level prospects back and just try to give the kids a little more playing time.
I'll give this one to Joe, and because you just mentioned Scherzer. Now, Joe, do you think Scherzer's time as a New York Mets is coming to an end this early into his contract with the Metropolitans?
No, because I don't think that I don't think anybody's going to give them anything reasonable for him to make it worth trading. You're going to have to eat most of, if not all of, the 20-something million dollars he's going to be due in the second half. And at the rate he is pitching, you're not going to increase the prospects significantly to justify trading him. If you're doing it, you have to do it in a way that the other team is going to pay the majority of his option year next year, which he is certainly going to continue unless he decides to retire. For me, listen, the Mets got to the point where it was going to be full steam ahead. I mean, if they had won these 2 games against the Padres the last 2 days, they would have been 2 games under 500 going into the break. 500 is the goal.
Correct.
You got about 2 weeks to get to that mark to make the trade deadline count. But at the end of the day, if they cannot get there, they are not going to be buyers in this situation. And that's why the Padres series was so frustrating. They had an opportunity to really build momentum into the break, to be very close to that mark. And what happened? Listen, Snell came in, shut you down. He was unhittable that day. That happens sometimes. You run into a great pitcher. The problem with the Mets, though, is you've used up all of your courtesy, benefit of the doubt, tip your cap to the pitcher losses on the year. You've used them up. We can't keep doing that. And we never beat Musgrove. So, and the offense just dried up the last 2 days. They needed to take at least 1 or 2 of those games, and they didn't. So now the Met fan goes into the All-Star break not feeling quite as good as they did a couple days ago after winning 6 straight.
Yeah, and I totally agree with
sorry, Corey. I just made the note in the chat too. I felt like in this past weekend, you're talking about 2 teams that couldn't have more of a similar season in the National League.
Yeah.
Both at the top of the spending limit. Both needed those wins just as bad. I think Padres slightly more because they were at least the home team. So you're playing a team that's in the same boat as you guys. So, taking the 1 at least against San Diego is nice. But yeah, obviously taking 2 out of 3 would have been great. But San Diego needed those wins just as much.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It almost felt like you went into the series with the loser of this series. If somebody had gotten swept, that would have been game over for that team's season. That being said, that didn't happen, and it's just enough for the Mets at this particular point to stay afloat. They got about 2.5 weeks to really catch themselves up. They got 6 games to make up to get to 500. So they have to play 6 games over 500 the next 2 weeks to make the trade deadline important and have a chance to move on. But if they're not going to be there, I agree with Corey. I would not buy.
Yep.
You ready for some Yankee baseball?
Sure. Why not?
Let's get into
I didn't watch a lot of
New
it
York-
this weekend, so.
I mean, it's been bad. The Yankees losing against teams that they should be beating. The split of the Orioles. The Orioles are a good team. The Orioles are in a position where they're very close to jumping the Tampa Bay Rays into the division. They're 2.5 out as of this moment. From
Don't
Tampa
gotta
Bay.
tell me about my birds, Rich.
Yeah, well, Birdland's real, man. You were the first to call it. We were first on the scene saying how real the Baltimore Orioles were, and Joe had to wear a Yankee jersey because of it. Check it out on YouTube from last year. Now, for the Yankees, they're currently 8 games back of the AL East and a game back in the AL wild card, which they keep fluctuating out of that third wild card position with a 49-42 record. The biggest news made over the last couple of days, well, actually, rather the last 24 hours, is that Dylan Lawson, the Yankees hitting coach, was fired midseason, which is honestly quite a surprising move. You don't really see the Yankees make coaching transactions during the middle of the season. They haven't done it in years.
First time under Cashman.
And first time under Cashman. And for speaking of first time, you're seeing a first time coach in the form of 3-time All-Star Sean Casey joining the Yankees. Tom, could Sean Casey save the Yankees offense?
No, and to steal a phrase from one of our favorite broadcasters, David Cohn, I think the firing of Dylan Lawson was really just eyewash. Is Dylan Lawson the reason why Josh Donaldson looks lost? No. Now listen, the biggest hurt or thing against him is the fact that they couldn't figure out what the hell was wrong with Volpe, and Volpe was horrible for like 6 weeks there. He goes and eats some chicken parm with Austin Wells and says, hey, how about you just close your stance up a little bit? And all of a sudden, Volpe's hitting 300 over the last, like 3-4 weeks. So if Dylan Lawson couldn't see that, that's embarrassing, frankly. Sean Casey, he's coming from MLB Network. Obviously, he's a 300. I think it's 302. I read earlier, lifetime hitter. I would assume he's going to bring a more old school approach, kind of the things you hear Paul O'Neill talk about in the broadcast booth. So I think it could help, right? It could just be a different voice in the room and maybe less analytical. But it's not going to save them. Like, what's going to save them is Stanton hitting home runs like he hit on Saturday, and Rizzo hitting a home run, which would be nice. That's what they need to do. The Yankees need to hit. They need to bang, and they're not banging. So it's
Joe and Corey, feel free to take a shot at assumption here, but I wonder how Sean Casey's name got thrown into that pool. Again, zero coaching experience.
Aaron Boone.
He's been behind the desk at MLB Network for almost since its inception in 2009. He's not like a former Yankee legend. He's not known around the organization. How does that name even come up as a possible candidate for that role?
Boone teammate.
Yeah, it's Aaron Boone. I mean, they played together for, I think 7-8 years in Cincinnati. And listen, Casey, around baseball circles, Sean Casey, I don't think people realize how good of a hitter Sean Casey was.
Oh, he was a solid player.
In the day.
I put on the Twitter, like, this isn't the first time I felt old as a baseball fan, because you saw people's like, who? The guy from MLB Network? I'm like, Sean Casey's talk about a pro hitter. Like,
yeah,
he's the kind of guy you kind of would love to like be a hitting coach, like just an old school kind of hitter. But
right,
yeah.
one of those guys who's kind of like an unsung hero. He was always a presence in and around the middle of the lineup, even if he wasn't the best hitter on the team. He's one of those guys that you put a bat in his hands, he's going to produce for you. So listen, we all know what happens. Offenses don't produce. The coaches get fired. They're the scapegoat. This is why I've said for weeks that the Mets firing a coach or a manager isn't going to really do anything. I think the pitching coach is actually more important than the hitting coach. But in this particular case, the Yankees, the coach is not going to change the fact that Donaldson and DJ LeMay, who are 37 years old plus each, Rizzo's 34, Stanton's 33 going on 34, something like that. And
Stanton's 33 going on 53 at this point.
Right. It's never going to change the fact that these guys are all past their prime hitters. And at the end of the day, some of them, in Donaldson's case, he might get hot for a week, but he is what he is at this point. DJ, you're disappointed in, but DJ's 37 years old. It's not like when you signed him, you were signing a young guy. Is he 37? Right.
I don't think he's 37. I think he's
in there. He's 36, something like that. But the change in the coach is not going to change the fact that this team needs an infusion of a young professional hitters. And we found out
DJ LeMay, he was 34. He's going to be 35.
Is he 34?
He's going to be 35 on the weekend. So.
All right,
you have it. No, he's going 34. He's 33 now. He's going 34 for the weekend.
Okay. Baseball
all
Reference.
Right. I overshot
34, and he'll be 35, and I don't know, whatever. So, he's not 37.
Anyway, but the point still stands. That's the big problem with the Yankees right now is they got a bunch of mid-30 hitters that are past their prime. None of them can carry an offense on their own like Judge can.
Stanton can, if Stanton does what Stanton, I do think Stanton still has some in the tank. This is what he's been for the past couple of years. If he gets hot, the Yankee he could carry the Yankees for 2 weeks, and I think he will at some point. Now he's not going to carry the Yankees all second half, but there's going to be a 2 week stretch where Stanton can do Stanton things.
It's just not sustainable because then that's just going back to Judge. It's like, again, you're relying on one player to save the day. And this is what's been the Yankees' MO for years. If you check out my River Ave Rewind, I did a 2-parter because I didn't have enough time to concise my thoughts on this team in a minute. So I went off on them for 2 minutes on Saturday. And I just think there's a slew of moves they can make internally to see where they can turn this team around because they're not getting it with these players that we just mentioned before in Stanton, LeMay, Rizzo, Torres, Donald. It's just, it's too much. And here's the thing too, because I didn't touch on him. We didn't touch on him yet. I am so in agreement with Joe now on how I feel about Gleyber Torres. For a long time, I was defending this guy, saying he's an above-average second baseman, especially offensively. He can't even make the routine double play. He's costing games in the field. He's not a clutch player as he once was. I'm over it. We're not paying this guy. If there is a suitor for Gleyber Torres and the Yankees are clear out of it, find one by August 1st. It is time to move on. It is time.
Best hitter all year.
I will say one thing too.
Best hitter all year on an anemic offense. So you're talking about the tallest.
Listen, he's been. I mean, Judge obviously missing the chunks of the year. He's been the best hitter. I think it's hard if you want to compete to move on from him. He hits some amount.
And it goes to show that Judge really is the AL MVP. I mean, granted, if I'm building a team from scratch, I'm taking Ohtani. There's no doubt about it. But what Judge means to the Yankees is everything. He really is the MVP. One point real quick, too, because I know we're talking about the Yankees, big money and players in their mid to late 30s. That's the same problem with the Mets, but the other side of the ball. The Mets have all this money in pitching past their prime. Scherzer and Verlander right at the top. Verlander right now is the model of inconsistency. One great start, one bad start. One great start, one bad start. And it's kind of keeping that trend going. Scherzer, on the other hand, you have no idea what you're going to get. You're going to have one outing from him where he's like, oh, Max is back. And then all of a sudden he's getting shelled and can't make it out of the fourth or fifth inning. So that's the same issue with both teams. It's just opposite sides of the ball where they have a lot of money invested in guys past their prime right now, and it's starting to hurt them.
Yeah,
the Yankees just feel like they're just been in the same. We've been in the same cycle with the Yankees since like 2021. It's just like old guys. They're hanging on, and then they keep getting replaced by just old guys. I don't know. They're not going to be sellers, and if they were sellers, who would they sell? There's no one on the team that people would really want. Maybe Gleyber would get something. The Pen, yes, but I think that they need to just they desperately need a way to shed these old contracts, these old guys, and then hopefully not replace them with more old guys. That's like been their issue. Like you get rid of Donaldson, but then they're gonna go sign a 32-year-old third baseman. You're like, that's not the formula. It's not how it's gonna work.
What the Yankees really need, and it's just unfortunate because in their playoff standings right now, they're not going to do it, as you mentioned, Tom, but they need another 2016 type trade deadline where all of a sudden you took a lot of these older players, sold them off, and all of a sudden now you have a good core, and it turned around immediately in 2017, a very young team. The young stars were the stars of that team in 2017, and that started the core of the team you have today. That's really the type of deadline you would dream about as a Yankee fan. It's just unfortunate where they are in the standings. They're not going to do that type of offseason, nor are they probably going to get the return on those players like they did back in 2017.
No. And the other problem too, as we get more into trade deadline talk for the next few weeks leading into the big day on August 1st, when you look at the Yankees team, they do not have a lot of tradable assets right now that are coming off the books. And that's a huge problem. I mean, Harrison Bader might be the only one. Luis Severino has pitched himself into a corner where where's his value?
Yeah. Nobody.
If you look at the trades in 2016, it was trading Chapman and Andrew Miller. Chapman was probably the best closer in baseball at the time, or one of the best closers, and Andrew Miller was the best eighth inning guy. If the Yankees wanted to get return, they'd have to trade Clay Holmes and Michael King. Is kind of where that leads right now.
The difference with those guys, though, is they're controllable. You traded Chapman and Miller because they were going to be free agents.
Yeah,
and you ended up getting a massive return, or at least what was a massive return at the time, because these were two teams chasing a World Series and ended up meeting in the World Series, I believe. So it's one of those things where you got to do it at the right time. If I were the Yankees, I wouldn't trade Holmes because he's been fantastic out of the bullpen.
Yeah, but that's if you want something that's gonna matter, you could trade like trading Ron Marinaccio is not gonna bring you something that's gonna really matter. It's gonna give you a lower prospect guy, and that's what's the point at that. You could just try to retool in the offseason and still have the best bullpen in baseball.
They need to, or they could do or they could pull a 2021 where that team was not a guarantee to be a playoff team, and look towards players that were going to be a part of the 2022 campaign. They could look into what is our 2024 roster looking like, which is most likely what they're going to do. I just honestly don't see this team selling off these assets, and they're going to look towards the future immediately. We're going to move on from Empire Express because we have a lot of all-star talk, and we have a fun segment coming up shortly. But before we get there, we have a bunch of people here over from Twitch. Joe, what's the best way for their friends to join us here on Twitch?
You could tell them to download the Twitch app on their smartphone and subscribe to Empire State of Baseball. The link is in our link tree, both on Instagram and on Twitter. You can have notifications sent right to your phone when we go live and join in the conversation from your phone.
Sure can. And on Twitch, we keep Twitch standings as well as YouTube and Twitter if you're part of our game segment, because we also count the standings for all our viewers out there who are participating as well. And for tonight's game, it is Guess the Graph. And now, if you look over Tom's shoulder, Tom got all his autograph balls stolen. I don't know what happened.
Someone robbed my house, only took the balls.
Yeah.
So only took the balls. So we relieved Tom of his Guess the Graph duties for now and handed it off to Corey Favs, at least for tonight. So, Corey, what is our ball for Guess the Graph?
Yeah, so looking up at this ball that I stole from Tom, this is a player who who did play for both New York teams, barely played for the Yankees, though. If we're looking at his New York tenure specifically, was more so with the Mets. But I know we have the All-Star game coming up, so I did want to give an All-Star. This was a 3-time All-Star in his MLB career.
It's not Doc Gooden, right?
Not Doc Gooden.
No, Doc wouldn't qualify as barely played for.
Well, you know what? Sometimes you got to break the ice, Joseph.
David
Weathers?
It is not David Weathers.
I was going to say another David. I was going to say David Justice.
Not Justice.
The middle looks like a J.
David Justice, nice Moneyball guy.
He is.
So it's someone who's a Met and maybe had a cup of coffee with the Yankees. I'm guessing, per typical Yankees, he was a Yankee when he was like 38, probably like a bullpen guy, and got shelled. And
ironically,
I'll tell you, this does look like an old ball. I can tell you that. It looks very worn.
It's not Todd Frazier, no.
It's not Frazier. I will confirm this player is not active.
Yeah, this looks like a... You can tell just by the ink and also by the fact that like it looks like a signature and not just scribble.
Is that El Duque?
It is not El Duque.
Rich. Corey said he barely played with the Yankees.
And now the funny thing is, my last hint, ironically, his Yankee tenure, as brief as it was right in the middle of his career, which makes it very odd.
Interesting.
Yeah. Not typical.
Can we get like a pitcher or a hitter?
How many fucking hints you want, Tom?
It was a positional player. 3-time All-Star.
3-time All-Star.
Positional player, 3-time All-Star.
It's not my boy John Olerud.
It is not.
You love
John
Olerud. Yes.
John Olerud is my. I know we're do the Immaculate Grid, like my favorite Immaculate Grid guy. Such random connections with Olerud.
I'll give one final hint.
Todd Zeal, it's not.
Not
Corey's
Todd
on the press
Zeal.
is taking the point.
Final hint. He did have 2 stints with the Metropolitans.
Not Ventura.
Not Ventura. I'll give you guys one last guess each. There's not an answer in the chat. I saw Diane Sawyer. It's not Diane Sawyer.
Extremely good baseball player there, that Diane Sawyer. I have the lead, so I'm going to yield myself.
All right. Last
Dave
second.
Kingman?
It is Dave Kingman.
Oh, shit.
Should have yielded.
I was looking for a D.
It's a Dave Kingman. The Dave is pretty legible. The Kingman kind of throws you off a little bit.
Damn.
But
Stole that one.
Dave Kingman. Yep, and that was our only correct guess as Diane Sawyer stood the test of time in the chat.
I thought it was a good
all right.
guess.
Good stuff, Joe. So Joe is now tied with Tom in the standings for second place with 6. Corey almost came close to getting the point.
I know.
For the ball there. A little too much hints there.
He gave it away, I think, at the end.
Too many hints there, Corey.
Too nice,
hints.
Corey.
I'm a man of the people.
Rookie mistake. All righty. Well, we're gonna get to All-Star stuff. It is 7:30, so we cut our show in half here perfectly. And we're gonna talk Twitter. So Corey, take it away. What we got on Twitter?
If you want to follow us on Twitter, right now we're just about 2,100 followers, a little over 2,100. Great interacting with everyone during the games and between games, and I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about during the Home Run Derby and All-Star breaks. But if you want to follow us, again, Empire State of Baseball. We have our actual Twitter at ESB Podcast, myself at G Gory, Joe at JR Pugs, Rich at Rich J Rivera, and Tom at T Waspel on Twitter.
442 career bombs for Dave Kingman in his career.
Correct.
Yeah.
I would say this probably qualifies him Hall very good, I'd say, but
yeah,
Hall very good.
He was close. I mean, he was one of those guys where he didn't hit well enough to match the home runs. He was kind of like, dare I say, he kind of was like an early Mark McGwire. I mean, that's kind of what he was. He was, or like an Adam Dunn type. You know what I mean? Hit just a ton of home runs for the Mets.
He certainly did, and he hit a home run for you tonight, Joe, as you got the correct answer there on Guess the Graph. All righty, so we're getting to the All-Star Week. A lot of cool festivities happening, and obviously at 8 o'clock, arguably our favorite activity of all, the Home Run Derby. And we're going to touch on the Derby in a little bit, but kind of picking it up chronologically, yesterday was the MLB Draft. The Mets came in with a pick. I think it was number 32 overall.
32.
Tell me about the couple picks that the Mets had, because I've heard some good things about these players.
Yeah, so the Mets had a couple picks in the draft. They dropped down late due to the fact that they are over the final threshold. So you drop down, I believe it's 10 picks. They would have had 22. And they ended up with 32. And Rich's graphic here doesn't even go that far. So,
nope.
But they ended up, from what everybody says, as a good draft. They got a kid who was a shortstop at 32, who was projected to be a top 10 talent according to Keith Law. So that's a good sign. I'll get his name for you in a second.
I'm going to be honest. I don't want to wet blanket this. None of us have a flying F word about how any of these guys are going to be the MLB draft. None of us have seen him play. We've seen him have Twitter highlights of hitting home runs, and you're like, oh, he looks like a player. I mean, you watch the NFL draft, and you can see those guys play on Saturdays in college, and you still don't even really know how those guys are going to pan out. We have no clue. Hopefully, some of these shortstops turn into left fielders, and they're good in 2027.
And the
Yankees
first,
the Yankees' first round pick was born in 2005.
Yeah, George Lombard Jr., who, if you guys didn't know, was the son of George Lombard. So, real cool fact right there. But yes, the Yankees had the draft of a shortstop. They just love drafting shortstops over these last few years. They just keep gunning it at that one position at a surplus.
Well, for a while, we just kept drafting catchers. So
yes.
And I think, Rich, I think you put the tweet of her.
I went over this on Twitter today.
Okay. I was just going to say, every best player in high school is a shortstop. So, yeah.
Right. So when you go and draft somebody whose position is a shortstop 90% of the time, whether it's high school or college, is the most athletic individual on the field. If you are the best athlete on your team, chances are you play shortstop, center field, or catchers are the one that kind of stick to where they usually start. But shortstops, for the most part, everybody's a shortstop, because every high school, their best athlete plays shortstop. So these guys get moved all over the place. DeGrom was a shortstop, right? Almost everybody you've ever seen was a shortstop.
I know that kid, the kid that went first from LSU, the pitcher. Like he seems to be like, and I'll be honest, I don't even know his name off the top of my head, but he apparently is supposed to be like the truth. He's, I think I saw best pitching prospect since Strasburg, so that could be a fun one. But even after that, you're like, we have no idea. So
if this is a conversation in about a couple seasons for episode 171, and we'll talk about one of these guys that came off this draft. All righty, let's move on, and we're going to talk about
player, one player real quick. The Mets have a two-way player. The Mets drafted a two-way player, Nolan McLean. I know he has a lot of Ks as a hitter, but he seems like a better pitcher than a hitter. But interesting that third round you drafted a pretty high-profile two-way player, so it's cool to see. Will he be Ohtani? No, he won't. But fun to see though.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. You're gonna see a lot of these two-way players starting to rip through these drafts now. You got a lot of people birthing from this Shohei Ohtani era. Look at Isaiah Kiner-Falefa doing a job on both ends for the Yankees. Nobody wants to talk about it. All right, we'll get to the All-Star game. I know we're going to get more to the specifics of the game itself later, but I really want to cover the snubs from the All-Star selection. And obviously, there is a huge one that we're all in agreement with is absolutely ridiculous that he could not make the National League All-Star roster. And that player is Tom?
That is Francisco Lindor in IKF.
Yeah. I mean, Superman till IKF deserves to be an All-Star.
There you go. I agree with Tom, but Francisco Lindor, I mean, Orlando Arcia made it because the Braves are a dominant first-place team. There's really no other way to put it. You compare Francisco Lindor to Orlando Arcia, and the numbers don't compare. The only one where Arcia really is better with is batting average. And I still think batting average is respectable, but a lot of people in baseball say that's not even a meaningful stat anymore. I disagree. But a lot of people say that's not even a good stat to go as a reference point. That's the only
Who's the backup shortstop?
Perdomo from the Diamondbacks. Yeah, another guy who Lindor completely shatters him in terms of stats. But look at these comparisons. I want to read off some differences here between the two players. Lindor has, now granted, Lindor's played in about 20 more games, all right? But looking at the numbers, 19 home runs to 7, 60 RBIs to 28, 13 steals to 1. Here's the difference in the average, 239 to 294. All right, but the on-base percentage, despite that average distance, is only 24 points difference in favor of Arcia. OPS, which is my favorite stat to judge a player, is 30 points higher for Francisco Lindor. OPS plus is higher for Francisco Lindor. Francisco Lindor is a leader for this team. Is he being overpaid? Yeah, he's probably getting overpaid. I'm not going to judge him on that. But purely on the numbers, this is one of the best players in the National League because of the position he's playing at shortstop. Shortstop's a prime position. To get this offensive output from a shortstop is incredible. So Lindor is an obvious snub. I think we could all agree on that. I'm actually going to give out one name. That's an interesting call out. It's a pitcher in the AL to give an AL snub to. Not really a snub per se, but the Twins. The Twins have two pitchers in Pablo Lopez and Sonny Gray that made the All-Star game. They actually have a pitcher in their rotation that has better numbers than both of them, and that's Bailey Ober. How about Bailey Ober?
Bailey Ober.
Yeah, a whip right now, 0.97 on the season. ERA 2.61. Joe Ryan's right up there too. Don't get me wrong. But Bailey Ober is his ERA is the best on that team. His whip is the best on that team. Opponent batting average 207. How about Bailey Ober got snubbed, in my opinion?
Yeah, I got three particular snubs that I think are important. First of all, Rafael Devers. How is Devers not on the All-Star team?
Of course, as Joe has multiple snubs.
He got 20 home runs, 66 RBIs, 38 extra base hits. He's top 3 in the AL in all 3 categories. How the hell is he not in the All-Star game? I'm sorry. Matt Chapman's not better than him.
He's not there because they had to, right? They got in because Chapman got voted. No, he didn't get voted to start. Okay, that's just okay.
Yeah, either way, Devers needs a spot on that team. Wander Franco. How is Wander Franco not on this team?
He's on the team.
He's on the team. He was replacement.
He's a replacement. How is he not voted in? So he's no longer a snub. And then I think the other
Yeah, I
one
think so, too.
was Ketel Marte. Marte had an 867 OPS, second to only Luis Arias. 15 home runs. He plays better defensively than Arias. He should be on the All-Star game too. Those are my three snubs.
The snub I'll mention was actually on Corey's pick list. It was Masataka Yoshida. How did Yoshida not make it? Yoshida's having a solid season, potential rookie of the year at this rate in the American League. I was shocked there that Yoshida didn't grab it because I thought that was a smart pick for Corey. Potentially could have been a dark horse even. Doesn't make the team. That one surprised me too. Masataka Yoshida. Tom, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking. I've been talking a lot about Yankees having the best bullpen in baseball. Would love to see Clay Holmes there, especially over Kenley Jansen and Emmanuel Clase. He's having a better year than either of them. Doesn't have the saves, but saves are also kind of dying out as a one man job. We'd like to see Clay Holmes.
Jansen's kind of like a lifetime achievement award. I think.
I'll be honest. I mean? I think Major League Baseball should stay with the fans voting and the starters, but I don't think at this point, like, however they're choosing the reserves needs to continue. Because if it's players, like, they're not yeah, they play against other guys, but like, do they really care who they're voting in or who's like I don't think, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think like Gleyber Torres is sitting down thinking like, oh man, let me check Lindor's OPS. Let me just see how it compares to RCA. Like, that's not happening. I would like to see them move to some other system. I don't know if it's select writers or media folk to actually get the best
writers
in
that
the game.
Vote in the Baseball Hall of Fame guys that everybody complains about.
Well, I don't know. Find some other way to do it because I feel like every year we have these guys that are just like
a blended average. You should have like 50% fan, 50% writers.
Get like the college football committee. Give me like 10 people who you're like, I trust. You know what I mean? You want to put like a couple broadcast guys, a couple like former players, and they actually look at it and say like, who deserves to be on this team? Because it does stink that there's always these guys who get left off a lot of times. And Lindor's an odd case because he's the biggest star of the shortstops in the NL, and he's not there. But a lot of times you get guys who they're there for name recognition. And Kenley Jansen's been to enough All-Star games; he doesn't need to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Give us someone who deserves it.
All right, last piece of this, of course, it is our favorite event that's happening later on tonight. It is the Homerun Derby. So we look at the field here of what we got going on, and I know we have a few different comments on especially the bracket structure to begin with. But you look at this Derby, and I'm not going to ask who's your pick to win, but I'm going to ask who's the dark horse of this competition.
Listen,
go on.
Listen, before we get to the dark horse, can we talk about the construction of this bracket? All right, this is supposed to be an event that's fun, right? You are supposed to be providing the maximum entertainment for the patrons of baseball. If that is the case, how do you have Alonso, Julio Rodriguez, and Vlad Guerrero Jr. on the same side of the bracket? I mean, come on.
They just do it by home runs, right?
You think anybody cares about Luis Robert and Adolis Garcia? And Albie Rushman in the Derby? You got the three biggest horses in the stable on the right side of the bracket. So, come on.
It just seems like
if you've won the Derby and you're participating in the Derby, you automatically should be guaranteed one of the top two seeds. In this case, we have Alonso, who's won it twice, and the defending champ facing each other in the first round.
So what you're saying is you don't like that we just
about entertainment.
We just went by the
side of the
so just choosing by the home run numbers. You would rather have just chose a fun matchup and not potentially waste someone in the first round.
Who cares if Robert has one more home run than Pete Alonso?
I don't know. I would say 3 people on this show would care about that. Anyway.
Well, the thing I care about the most, and they've gotten away from this, and I don't understand it, and I made this complaint early in the show. What was one specific thing that the Homerun Derby used to do in terms of their bracket structure years ago?
Well, they used to not do a bracket. I think the thing is, it was best when they didn't have a bracket. You had 8 guys. Whoever 4 hit the most homers in the first round moved on. and then whoever of those four, those two at the most homers moved on. And I think that's what tired the guys out.
I'm just talking about structure of the field. There are 6 American League participants in this competition. What happened to AL versus NL? It used to be 4 versus 4.
You got to get guys to do it.
Changed the absolute construction of this whole thing because you wouldn't have had J-Rod versus Pete Alonso first round. So what happened with that?
It's tough. They keep changing these things. It seems like every few years they keep changing it. I agree. I mean, you got 6 versus 2.
I don't think 4. Yeah, I don't think the leagues matter. I think you got to get your 8
All-Star week. It's AL versus NL.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter at this point. I think you got to get your 8 most exciting guys who are willing to do it. And I think in that aspect, Major League Baseball did a fantastic job of filling out this bracket. They have some stalwarts with Alonso. You have some up and coming stars with Rutschman, and Julio was such a star last year. Mookie and Vlad. You have your Adolis Garcias, like no one cares about that, but got my boy Randy Arozarena down there. He is my dark horse. He is my dark horse to win. Also, my bracket I picked Arozarena to.
I could have did without Adley. In this.
Listen, Birdland rolls.
The other 7 are fine by me. Adley, I don't know.
I think it's I think it's another way of rewarding the teams who are doing well in the first half. There should be an Oriole in the Derby. There should be a Ranger in the Derby because these teams should be showcased for having fantastic first half. So
no, and I get that, and it's not like Aldi isn't relevant. He is the biggest star on a team in the Orioles that has surprised Major League Baseball over the past season. So I get that he's a top prospect. Like I said, my bigger problem is Alonso should be the one. Or Julio should be the one.
I don't want to hear it. I want to hear none of that from any one of you 3.
Julio should is the defending champ. He should be number 1. And not for nothing, does anybody here think Mookie Betts is a better home run hitter than Vlad Guerrero Jr.?
No.
I mean, come on.
I don't view Mookie Betts as a home run hitter, period. I mean, he hits home runs, but I view him as an all-around hitter, not a slugger.
I love
How is he the 3 seed?
I will say one slugger who I like
do it.
On the left-hand side of the bracket, I do like Adolis Garcia. Arozarena, I know is Tom's dark horse. I do like Garcia over there as well. I actually placed 3 bets tonight. I had to go with Alonso. That's the hometown boy. I got to go with Alonso. So that was one of my bets. I did throw a few bucks on Garcia as well. And I threw a few bucks on Luis Robert Jr. Why not throw a few bucks on the 1 seed? So those are my 3 guys I got tonight. I hope Alonso wins it.
I feel like Arozarena really balled out in the WBC, and he's a guy who's just getting his personality just wasted and withering away in that crap Tropicana field. And I think in a big stage, I think Randy Arozarena, he's going to have the most fun. And I think he's just going to carry that momentum and that swagger to winning this.
I mean, Tom, he's proven it on a big stage in the past. He was a star of the World Baseball Classic early in the year. He was a star in the 2020 World Series with against the Dodgers. And Arozarena knows how to shine. I think that's a good pick. So I'll ask, and I guess that was your answer because that was my first question before Joe took it and ran. Who is your dark horse for tonight's competition? Joe.
I'm actually gonna go Vlad Jr. I feel like he's got the toughest road aside from maybe Alonso. But I think people forget this guy broke the record for how many home runs hit in a single derby at one point before Alonso edged him out in the last round.
Those records are also like Fugazi. So
yeah, I get it, but
with the seedings now because frankly, like Alonso really can't break that kind of a record because he's only gonna have to beat the guy who went before him. So if Julio only hits 5 and Alonso hits 6, he's done.
No,
that's another reason why I hate this setup. But
I prefer the old one where, like you said, you have 8 guys in at the top 4 advance. You know, the bracket style, I guess, makes it a little more entertaining, and that's the goal. Is all they want to make it entertainment, must-watch TV.
I'll be honest. I think it's just because they can get T-Mobile to pay to sponsor this thing, so that way they can get some more money out of it. Because there's no, I don't know, it's such a worse product this way than just letting guys hit as many homers as they can.
Yep.
J-Rod's my dark horse for this competition. He is at the hometown boy in Seattle. Him and Alonso are it's going to be an awesome first round. Unfortunately, it's going to be probably the best of this entire competition, that first round there. So We'll see how it goes. Corey, do you have a pick in this whole thing?
You said Adolis Garcia. Yep.
Adolis Garcia.
If Alonso wins his third, how significant is that tying Ken Griffey Jr.
for Humpty Dumpty to win it?
See, I like that transition there, Joe, because if you followed us on Twitter, we did just do the first ever MLB all-time home run derby. And of course, our winner was Ken Griffey Jr., the winner of 3 home run derbies. And I guess that makes the most sense. Pete Alonso came in with the upset over Prince Fielder in the semifinals. But this was a fun bracket to conduct with our Twitter fans. So I want to thank all our followers on Twitter for casting votes. We had hundreds of votes come in over these past few days. When you guys look at this competition, I'll ask you, which one of these matchups would you have been the most excited to see in person?
Oh, in first round, Ken Griffey Jr., Aaron Judge. And we just had this debate in the current one with Pete Alonso versus Julio Rodriguez. But what about Griffey Jr. versus Judge? I mean, that's the same type of thing. What a matchup. But there's so many good matchups in this because look at these names on this list. There's so many good names, but I got to go with that very first matchup in the top left. You got the home run champ from last season, Aaron Judge, who just hits missiles every time he's up there, versus Ken Griffey Jr., who has the most iconic picture in baseball, in my opinion, or one of when it comes to the Derby, with the backwards hat, just smashing bombs. So I got to go with that top left.
Yeah, real shame that Judge, had to go out early because of the seating, done in a very objective way. I don't hear Joe bitching about that because his boy Humpty Dumpty made it to the final.
It's not like Pete doesn't deserve the chance to get into the finals. I mean, did you watch those 2 home run derbies he put on his show?
Did you watch the one that Judge dominated? Had to hit 23 in the first round just to advance.
Tom got the shirt from that derby on.
I do have
He's going to have more career home runs than half of these guys by the time it's all said and done.
Not more than Aaron Judge.
I think he's tied with Aaron Judge. I think he's got more home runs than Aaron Judge.
Well, if I can answer my own question, because I never get a chance to, I would love to see that Oakland A's matchup there, that Mark McGwire versus Yoenis Cespedes. We are talking about that 2013-14.
No, you Cespedes. Don't. That's not the one you want to see the most. You're a liar. Get out of here.
I love the Oakland A's. I love the Oakland A's.
All these guys, you have.
And I think this would be great for the city of Oakland. You would have saw McGwire versus Cespedes in a home run matchup.
You're full of it.
No, I am full of it. No, I actually give me Sosa and Stanton. I mean, that would be a beast matchup there.
Give me Bonds, Ryan Howard. Give me
Sosa and Stanton would have been sick. That Howard Bonds, the 2 best left-handed power hitters of the last 25 years.
McGwire, Vladdy Sr. It's fun. Ortiz, Frank Thomas. To see the thick Kings go at it.
I think Bonds and Alonso would have been great.
I want to see Ortiz and Frank Thomas go at it, and then if it's a tie, it's a hot dog eating contest for the win.
Yeah. Yep. Oh man,
that was Bonds and Alonso would have been fantastic.
Joe, I was going to ask: is 96 Bonds? Is this pre-steroid Bonds, or is he? Yeah. Is he juicing at this time?
This is way pre. Yeah.
He's like a half-inflated balloon at that point. He's not.
He doesn't do it until he doesn't really get into that.
No, he doesn't do it until McGwire breaks the record.
Yeah.
That's fair. And they had the video of him meeting McGwire at the Home Run Derby. McGwire just manhandles a skinny Barry Bonds. He's like, I need to take steroids now too. All right, so that's our All-Star festivity stuff. We got more All-Star talk in a little bit, and I'll tell you through the great video of Chooch's Pick of the Week. But before we get there, Thomas, on YouTube, there's so many great episodes of this show that you can check out on YouTube. What was your favorite episode that our fans can check out on YouTube?
I mean, listen, there's obviously Joe wearing the Yankee jersey, which is iconic, but you really can see a lot of fun interviews we've done. We did Homer Bush earlier this year, former Yankee legend, current manager of the Ferry Hawks. That's a lot of fun that we got to sit down and talk with him. But, if you're watching us live on YouTube, thank you. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We also have our post-game recaps posted there, and all old episodes plus some clipped up episodes. So check us out on YouTube and check out some of the archives for some old fun, especially around Birdland.
A lot of fun. And Birdland's looking legit this year. More legit than ever before, probably since the Manny Machado, Buck Showalter managed Orioles. Good times. Anyway, Chooch's pick of the week. Let's end the show with Chooch's pick, and of course, Chooch did us a solid and added an all-star spin to it. So let's listen to Matt for.
What's up, ESB crew? Happy All-Star Weekend. I'm back with Chooch's pick of the week, and guess what? So is the blanket. So this week we're gonna kick it off tonight with the Homerun Derby. My pick, I really like Adolis Garcia, so I'm gonna go with Adolis Garcia tonight. And then tomorrow, AL versus NL. AL has won the last 9 games. I think tomorrow, it's going to shift over the NL finally. I think they have a better constructed roster. And I think your NL MVP is going to be Ronald Acuna Jr. What do you guys think?
Well, I think he meant All-Star Game MVP, not the NL MVP, although Acuna, I think it's his to lose at this rate, too.
There, Matt.
He's got the National League taking the American League. I actually didn't know that the AL had won those consecutive matchups, so the AL just completely dominated.
They've won like 24 of 25 because even before that, like they were on a crazy run.
Yep.
It's insane. He goes with the Homerun Derby pick, Adolis Garcia. I wonder why. Same way I wondered why Corey picked Adolis Garcia.
I feel so much better about my Randy pick now that I know that Chooch is on Adolis.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chooch, but
I'm gonna have to cash out mine.
Your record speaks for itself. Yeah.
I gotta have to cash out with that 1-4-1 record that Matt has right now.
Oh, Randy
but
going
let's talk
on.
All-Star Game. So tomorrow's Midsummer Classic. Let's go around the room here. Who is taking the game between the AL and NL, and who will be the MVP of the festivities? Tom.
We haven't mentioned this, but Garrett Cole's starting the All-Star Game for the AL, and I know
he is. Damn it!
Excited
yes,
about
he
that.
Is.
He deserves to get a start in the All-Star Game. I know the starters is so finicky based on when you last pitch. He lines up well for it.
Dang. I wish I could highlight it.
Yeah, I'll just listen. I don't think I'm going on too big of a limb here. I'll say Julio Rodriguez, hometown guy. If he comes in, hits a homer when they're going to let him play. So give me Julio Rodriguez to win. And the All-Star games have been low scoring recently. I'll say 3-2 AL.
Yeah, I like the NL this year because no Judge, no Trout, a little different construction for the AL, a lot of new faces in there. I think the NL's got a lot more familiar faces there. It's got a lot better pitching, at least in my opinion, up and down the roster. So I'm going to go NL. I'm going to go 7-5 NL. I'm
also going to go 7-5, but I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go with the AL, and my MVP is the MVP of the AL. It's going to be Shohei Ohtani, and I hope to see that Shohei Ohtani versus Kodai Senga matchup. That would be awesome to see. So let's see if it happens.
It's going to be a low-scoring one. It's a 2-1 game. The National League wins it, and the MVP is going to be somebody who has the deciding hit or home run in that game. And it's going to be late. It's not going to be a start. It's going to be somebody who's going to be coming into the middle of the game. I'm going with the Braves' Matt Olson, who's going to come in with a big RBI hit or home run late in the game. That is my pick. But for Matt, obviously, we wish him the best of luck because he's only pulled one win out to start the 2023 year. I can't even say start anymore. We're halfway there now. We're at the halfway mark of the season. So
over half.
Matt's pace is not good at all. So let's get better, hopefully, for the second half and see how things go and moving forward. But obviously, we're going to end this thing tonight. Just make sure, again, give us a follow on Instagram at Empire State of Baseball and all our Instagram handles you see in the ticker. Also, our New York Strike Exchange gets revealed usually every Friday. It got revealed today because of the end of the season just happened. We'll be back the following Friday for the next reveal. And of course, we'll be back next Monday for our next episode, July 17th at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Tom, anybody you want to thank before we go check out the Derby?
I like to give a shout out to Allison Carpuz, who I know none of you know who that is. Rich, you should. Just won the U.S. Women's Open. She's a sponsored athlete by the company Rich and I work for. We get paid, so pretty cool to watch her watch her win the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. So Allison Carpuz, shout out.
All right, nice. I like it, Joe.
Yeah, shout out. Hopefully Pete Alonso turns his season around with a nice performance in the Derby. I like having guys come in who are struggling, go into the Derby, chance to fix their swing a little bit. Pete could use this as a springboard for the second half of the season. So let's go 3 for Pete.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to someone I just mentioned earlier, Kodai Senga, first season in Major League Baseball with the Metropolitans, first All-Star appearance, coming off of his best start of his MLB career with 12 Ks. So congratulations, Kodai. Hope to see you in the game tonight or tomorrow night.
I want to thank Major League Baseball for continuing with the Home Run Derby tradition every July. It is the best competition in sports when we're not talking about an actual professional game happening on the field. So enjoy the Home Run Derby on ESPN. Hopefully you guys, especially Corey, hit all your bets there. Having a lot of luck today, and this competition being another fun one. So enjoy, and we'll see you here next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time right here on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. Take care.